Well, alrighty. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. Happy to have you here. We are back again for the Titan Series Premier Qualifiers. This is, I believe, the second day of the qualifiers over what's going to be 4 gruesome days of action, mayhem, and all-out brutal PUBG Mobile competition. And what might these participants be competing for, you ask? Well, a shot at competing in the Premier League Finals. That's right. Half of, well, I shouldn't even say half. We got 16 teams competing, and more than half, so 10 teams will be advancing on to the Premier Finals from here. However, if you find yourself in the bottom 6 performing teams, you're not out of the running just yet. You still have a shot at advancing onto those Premier Finals by competing in the Challenger Finals. That's right. Bottom 6 go to Challengers. Top 10 go on, skip straight to the end game, right on to the final boss, the Premier Finals. And why might that be important? Well, not just for that $20,000 prize pool, ladies and gentlemen, not just for that proverbial fat cash, but for the obvious, the advancement and a potential advancement, I should say, into the PMSL. It's that step up the ladder into the pro circuit. And right away, we can see that this is very likely going to be one of those slower starts to the match. Just getting an eye here on our boys in 7th Universe dropping into the North George region. And I think the North George City drop says enough on its own. They're there to loot, get properly equipped, ideally before taking on any early game altercations. We got the boys in CBK holding down the Stinky Pachinky here, and we got fairly underlooted participants on CBK so far, and that's understandable. Everyone's just touching down, trying to get properly equipped. But as this match progresses, everyone who's tuning into this has probably familiarized themselves with the nature of PUBG Mobile esports. But as this match does progress, that zone's going to shrink, and we are going to be left with all-out brutal bloodbath warfare. Catching eyes on Dark Esports, everyone around the lay of the land here, just trying to get properly looted. And you can see just from the drop region here, Dark Esports definitely not looking for that early game confrontation. Not out looking for any immediate fights to take on. Not trying to even risk losing a member this early on. And it's understandable. I think we tend to note, especially at the beginning stages of a lot of these qualifiers, and not just at the Premier League, but even in the Challengers League, you can see it. A lot of the early event reservations, just a lot of teams very hesitant to step out of the comfort zone and actively search for that early game confrontation. Everyone is trying to ensure that they don't throw themselves out of the running before they even have a shot. And the problem with that I tend to see is that can lead to a bit of a first half stalemate kind of, yeah, we'll just call it that. Like basically a very slow paced first half of the day. And the issue that kind of adds is that Hey guys, I see y'all talking about me with my mic not working. I see you talking about me with my mic not working. Well, guess what? I didn't have anything important to say. What's up, guys? Yeah, literally, apologies for that, but welcome in, guys, to the Titan series. This is going to be match 1 of day 2 of the Premier Qualifiers, and we are kicking things off with a very slow-paced Erangel. Essentially, let me just clue you in to the entire 5 minutes of yapping that you missed. It was me just filling in time. Basically, this is the structure of the event. The top 10 placing teams in the Premier Qualifiers will go on to the Premier Finals, but the bottom 6 placing teams are going to get bumped down to have to compete in the Challenger Finals, where, if they place well enough, will be sent right on back to the Premier Finals. But you know that most of these teams here in the Premier Qualifiers are some of these more established, credible teams that were invited in. So they definitely don't want to have to do the extra labor of battling and duking it out in those Challenger Finals. So, with that being said, and with that riding on the line, these top 10 placing teams will advance to the Premier Finals, where they will duke it out for a $20,000 cash prize pool. But along with that, the big eye in the sky prize, the chance at advancing on to the PMSL and getting your foot in up the ladder and a further step into that professional circuit. So with so much riding on the Titan series here, it is very understandable to see a lot of this slow play reservation early on in the event. And as it's only day 2 and it's just match 1, basically I would be more surprised if we were kind of thrown into the thick of it right off the rip. I think what we can predict for the day is probably a slower paced first half of the day. Realistically, at least a slower paced first 2 matches as these teams try to feel it out, kind of dip their toes in the water and see what sort of pace that their competition is taking. So yeah, that can leave obvious upsides, obvious downsides. The upside is that it, if we're left with a passive first half of the day, we're going to be getting some pretty good action in the latter half. But also, what I tend to note, at least for the NA scene, is in a lot of events that are structured this way, oh my god, look at the zone just shifting all the way towards the coast here. Now this is gonna be a real battle for real estate for basically every eastern placing team outside of the zone. I'm seeing, the Eagles, CBK, goodness gracious, Rich, we got straight out of Nepal. All these teams are going to have to duke it out for what is the remnants of compounds and structures here. And realistically, if that were me, if I was one of the teams inside this new zone, I would probably be trying to hug the western coast, not having to really account for your backside and only having to really survey 270 degrees. All right, anyways, my point was, gosh, my mouth is bigger than my head. That's my point. My point was essentially what I tend to note happening here in a lot of these NA events for the early portions of these events is a lot of over-exerted reservation, meaning a lot of these teams playing very safe, very reserved, really trying to not screw themselves over too quickly. The problem is that when you're not getting that momentum and not putting that work in early on, then you end up trying to sort of make up for that slack in the rope, try to make up that deficiency in the latter half of the event, and it can often be just trying to shoot for too much too quickly. And as we see time and time again, it often leads to teams undoing it. So I get why a lot of teams are playing the slow reservation thing. It seems to be a kind of par for the course. Just going to have to find a proper balance of it. And so far, for the start of match 1, it has been essentially a standstill. We've lost very few members up until about 30 seconds ago, and I just now saw on the feed that the Wolves doing some work, but you guys are going to have to bear with us here. There we have it. Doran Baton, yes, they are squaring off with Dark Esports and GOAT being swarmed on here by the Wolves. We got Juancho carrying a utility. Doran and Coop. Doran holding the off angle. Juancho providing a little bit of up-close cover here, but it's going to be all for naught for Dark. A lot of effort to secure that push, and it was a lot easier than they intended it to be there. All the while, we got straight out in Nepal and X-Force squaring off in the distance. Rob taken down. Yep, and it looks to be a thirst on Rob. All while X-Force and straight out in Nepal still at each other's throats. Valak with that UMP-45, that CQC Annihilator. Trying to get that preemptive knock. He's got majority of the work done here on SON, it looks like. It looks to be like it's just Gatsby as his pardon me, it's Gatsby and Wolf still up. Now the spread on X-Force could make this a little bit difficult, but it could also be their saving grace, those multiple lines and multiple angles here. Certainly adding a pressure factor, but in that brief few seconds, Valak downed. I'm hoping that it was not at the hands of his own nade, but yeah, this is going to even the odds a little bit more here. So now we only have 24k and Faith up for X-Force versus Gatsby and Wolf for straight out in Nepal. And these are two teams who have been squaring off constantly from event to event. And, well, the Wolf has out its last song. We're not talking about the team, we're talking about the player on SON, leaving Gatsby down to the last hope for straight out in Nepal. You got one shot at Gatsby's American dream here, and it is going to be a tough dream to pull off as he is being swarmed on by X-Force members. But hey, we've seen 1v2s happen pretty frequently, and that S12, well, enjoy a caster curse, buddy. Well, as soon as I hyped him up with that S12, it almost guaranteed that nade was going to hit. The infamous caster curse strikes again. So I see some people in the chat asking about how many teams from the Premier Qualifiers are going to go on to the finals. So I do apologize for that brief mute at the beginning. I may have explained it after I unmuted, but if you guys weren't there for that, essentially the way that the Premier Qualifiers are structured are the top 10 placing teams will advance on directly to the Premier Finals. Kind of skip all the way to the final boss stage. But if they aren't in those top 10 placing teams, they're not out of the running yet. If they're in the Premier Qualifiers, they get knocked down to compete in the Challenger League Finals. Now, if they place well enough in the Challenger League Finals, then it's right back up to the Premier Finals. But, you know, with only 10 of those 16 teams being guaranteed a spot here, and a lot of money on the table at those Premier Finals, no one really wants to throw themselves out of the running or even risk throwing themselves out of the running this early on. Believe, well, players are given a little bit of a saving grace as that zone shift goes a bit more inland, giving them a little bit more real estate and wiggle room to choose from. But not a lot of compound cover afforded here in this new zone, so it's going to be that battle for prime real estate. And in this case, we see the Eagles doing some work here on none other than Rival 6. It looks like Rival 6 could be in a bit of a pinch here. If it's down to just Anders alone, then he is in for a world of hurt. Not likely to be able to escape from this. Star gonna try to get a preemptive nade knock, and wow! Talk about sinking the battleship. He did the math, he calculated the trigonometry, and boom! He sunk that perfectly. Well, the remainder of Rival 6 trying to, well, initially looked like they were trying to provide some assistance to their fallen teammate. Looks like they weighed the options and realized that they have to cut their losses and just try to secure at least some placement in this match. Get something on the board, at least damage reduction here as they move forward in the remaining 3 matches. Got the Eagles and Dauntless getting dangerously close here. Blaze putting out some warning shots with that Scar L, and it looks to be more than just a warning as Dizzy is down. All the while, X-Force and CBK squaring off in the distance. Dauntless, at this point, down to a 2-piece of Blaze and XP3. Really feeling the pressure factor, and talking about pressure, well, the Wolves have howled again, and X-Force gets X'd out right then and there. All the while, the Eagles being hunted here by none other than Entity in the distance. In for a penny, in for a pound, in for a world of hurt here, as he is literally sandwiched in between Golden Eagles and the Wolves. That is talk about in between a rock and a hard place. Well, of all the decisions, XP3 chooses to engage on the Eagles, and it does look like he was able to secure the knock on Star. I think that may have just been his damnation, so to speak. If his location was not known before, it certainly is now. And now he's going to be getting a lot of focus here from the Eagles. Luckily for him, Doran of the Wolves providing a little bit of unintentional third-party assistance and a bit of a distraction here. Boy, CBK... I've seen them on the wrong end of this kill feed majority of the match, it feels like, but as they keep on being able to bounce back and stay up in the running here, are they out of the equation now? No, they still have one member up, at least 2 members, it looks like. Blaze and XP3, oh my goodness. So, sandwiched as they are, they're still up in the running here, and only 3 more teams need to be eliminated before they meet that bracket for placement points. And so there's a lot worth staying still and hanging on for if you are CBK. Taking a look at the full 4-piece of Entity here. Now, Entity, 2 elims on the board already, but still a full 4-person team. And that could be an absolutely crucial factor as we move into stage 6 and 7 of this Erangel endgame. Those numbers can be the absolute difference between a chicken dinner and a 5th place finish. Well, it's good to see the boys in MEZEXIS. And MEZEXIS sent back to the lobby there. All the while, INCO, 4 elims on the board, and still a full 4-person team. This is, could be a bad news bears situation for a lot of the player base here. As that endgame comes, I think we all know that teams like INCO and Wolves really comfortable in their aggressive pushes and in-game strategies, so I definitely would feel that chill down the spine if you see a full 4-piece of INCO towards the end. Well, look here, Noobs trying to we got Gino here trying to secure a revive on his fallen teammate Winter, and I'm assuming that their 3rd teammate was trying to provide some cover fire, but we were hearing the bullets plopping up against that buggy, so... And looking on the map, it does not look like they were ever pushed. So, DBZ, thanks for the sub, Warrior, appreciate you. We got DBZ, Crazy, and Echo, the only 2 members up remaining here. Aorsic and Bloody have been eliminated. So, bit of the same story as what we said for CBK. A lot of reason to kind of lay low and let these numbers dwindle. But, as you can see in the top left of the screen here, we are down to our final 8 placing teams, meaning that no matter what, from this point until the end of the match, some teams are going to be walking away with placement points at the very least. Even if 0 elims are acquired, they get some points on the board. All right, we hear the shots in the distance. And it's a battle of patience here. CBK Mood dangerously close to a full 4-person team. Oh boy. Seal really almost eliminating my points there as they get the easy ones there. Oh, I'm wrong. I'm looking at the feed here and it does not look like that was at the hands of Seal. Anyways, the INCO boys are down to just 7B at this point. Vitali and Bruno have been down. Magrellan eliminated early on. It looks like there has been one INCO revive executed effectively here. All the while, the Wolves and the Seals going at it. Noobs Esports having at it with the Wolves and a little bit of third-party elims as well. And if I'm not mistaken, that might spell the end for the Wolves for round 1. Looks like we also got a bit of congestion here as 7th Universe pretty darn close to what remains of DBZ Esports. Looks like, yeah, we see Crazy a bit distracted by Skills trying to get a preliminary utility knock. Trying to get some easy evening of the odds without presenting himself to the opposition, but it does not look to be successful. All the while, Entity, this slow play, you know, as much as I wanted to criticize it 2 or 3 minutes ago when they had 2 elims, well, they're still a full 4-piece, and now with 5 on the board, to have those numbers and elims already on the board and acquired at the very worst, you know, a 6th place finish, that's a pretty healthy secured point gain for round 1. But, oh, Noobs, in a brief few seconds, reduced down to their final hope. Gino, the only member remaining up for the team here, going to try to enshroud his fallen teammates in a cloud of smoke, see if he can pull off some revives, but it's going to be a risky one to say the least. And yep, the bullets are falling on him. Just absolute thunderstorm and hailstorm 556 coming his way, and then a nade crashing at the very end to secure the thirst on and taking 7 down to half health here. Well, shot down to about his final 10%, desperately in need of meds here, down to his last first aid and swimming in a world of trouble. All the while, DBZ and 7th Universe continue this close quarter altercation. Well, Faker is down. Trunks taken down to about half health. And if you look, DBZ really suffering minimal damage in the process. Both of the pushers of that team there look to be above half health. Oh, it's just the 2-person. That's right. They're down to their 2-piece. And they're both doing just fine in terms of health. Does look like they're a bit limited in terms of utilities. If I'm seeing this correctly, they might be down to practically none. We're about to find out, because 7 INCO is close enough. You can expect teams like INCO and Wolves to really spread their wings in these in-games, especially if they have the numbers in their favor. But INCO being a 2-piece, I'd still expect them to act with the confidence of a 3 or 4-piece, just knowing the level of comfort that team is in their CQCs. Well, Skills is down right then and there, and that is going to bring 7th Universe down to a 3-piece of Deep, Faker, and Trunks, unless they can secure this revive. And it does look like Bruno and 7 are trying to bait that revive here, trying to get another knock to add on. right, well, down to the final 4. 10 players remain across 4 teams, and yep, the big bad wolf, the KOOPS, strikes again. I didn't see who the knock was on, but it looks like it may have been a third-party elim steal at the hands of Team Entity. Yep, and here we see it. Those little tiny shacks, just so frequently occupied in these in-games where compound cover is few and far between. I often say it's that false sense of security, but you know, it's hard to argue with Coops doing it. Regardless, he does secure another takedown on Faker here. And look at the man go. Coops, the final hope for the Wolves, the last big bad wolf, and responsible for almost half of the team's 7 elims. This is going to be a very healthy point gain, no matter what at this stage. And the longer Coops stays alive at this point, it's just extra point cushions onto the board. A little extra icing on the cake, so to speak. And he just needs one more team to be eliminated to get the maximum that he can without taking a chicken dinner. So it does look like a little bit of bad luck has fallen on him as he finds himself just 6 meters outside of this zone. We have 20 seconds left of this stage 8. I mean, this is the absolute end game, ladies and gentlemen. There is no more time for laying low. It's about to be this in-game bloodbath warfare here. And Ace with what could be a monster nade. It does nade Coops down to just above half health. Can the second one finish the job? Or the third? Just sending an absolute onslaught of nades rolling down his way. Coops desperately trying to bandage up to counteract it, but ultimately naded out of the equation. Wolves taking out the third. So now it's a standoff here between the final hope of 7th Universe, Mr. Deep, versus 3 members. And the F12, the shotgun sounds the same in every language, and it says the same thing. Back to lobby you go. Oh my goodness. Deep swallowing a hefty load of damage there on that. Taken down to just above half health, and honestly, he's handling this altercation pretty calmly. He's not making any hectic pushes, any impulsive pushes here, and it's paying off pretty well here. He's got the odds evened out to a 1v2. It looks like Flash holding that off angle to try to have that coin in the back pocket for Entity, but with these two having the hill press, he's literally making it so they have to face him one at a time if they're not going to push it once. But all together, when it's all said and done, hey, it was a great effort to put it up in a 1v3, but the numbers, they kind of won. Outnumbered, outmanned, outgunned, and that is going to be a 7th Universe winner chicken dinner. That is a healthy 18-point gain here for one match alone. 10 placement points along with 8 elims. That is a healthy protein chicken dinner right there. And let's not discredit Entity either. You know, wait. I'm going to have to reverse. Let me reverse here. Okay, stop. Hold up. Wait a minute. If I'm not mistaken here, I think I'm tripping here. I'm not even going to say it. I'm not even going to say it. I'm going to check with production after this. And when I come back for match 2, I'm either going to be correcting a big whoops or I'm just going to look like a genius. But I have a feeling it's the first. Anywho, Team Entity, ain't nothing wrong with silver when you're taking 14 points for one match alone. And the Wolves howling in third with 12. Now look at these overall standings here. INCO still the kings of the jungle here with a 55-point total. Trailing only 7 points behind is, ironically enough, 7th Universe. And only 5 points behind them straight out of Nepal, and straight into third place, it's SON. Followed by DBZ, Entity, Dauntless, Force, MEZEXIS. Where are the Wolves in this bracket? 10th place overall with only a 25-point total. Okay, literally tied neck and neck with Rival 6 were it not for Rival's chicken dinner on day 1. This is a interesting overall standings to see here. I expected to see the Wolves much higher up on the bracket board, but hey, it's only match 1 of day 2 done and dusted. There's plenty more PUBG Mobile esports action ahead of us. We still got 3 more rounds for the day. Stick around, y'all. We'll be back at you in just a few short moments with some more PUBG Mobile action. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Alright, let's see here. Oh no. Oh boy, we might be having some OBS issues. Oh, we're okay. We're okay. Welcome back, everyone, to round 2 of 4 of the PUBG Mobile Premier League qualifiers for the Titan series. And you already know what time it is. Time for a little destruction in the desert. And it looks like the players are given a almost perfectly centralized flight path here to kick things off. Now, generally, I would say, that's about the most ideal situation that they can hope for. But realistically, I think, for us being the viewer, we want to see some action. And this could lead to a bit of downtime, at least for the first couple stages of the game, as it's just a large, wide open area map. That 8x8 size can really be easy to overlook when you look at the map feed at the start of a Miramar match. But as a co-caster of mine once put it, Miramar is like looking at your rear view mirror when you're driving on the interstate. Objects may be a lot closer or further away than they actually appear. Alright, well, the winners of round 1, 7th Universe, trying to maintain the momentum from round 1, trying to snowball this confidence into round 2. But as we know to be the nature of PUBG Mobile, every map presents its own set of specific challenges, obstacles, advantages, etc. And I say this time and time again, but what is often the ticket to a Sandhawk victory or a Erangel victory probably might not be the go-to strategy for a wide open map like Miramar. It's much more sniper intensive, as we know to be the case, and you really have to have your head on a 360-degree swivel at all times. You might not even have anyone within a 200-meter radius of you, and you're still have a pretty decent probability of being in danger from enemy snipers. So it definitely is going to present different obstacles. We'll see how 7th Universe adapts their strategy to accommodate that. Will Rondo be played instead of Sandhawk? Kev Neal asks. I see you in the chat, Kev. Welcome in. I don't believe that we are going to be messing with Rondo in the qualifiers. I have been hearing quite a bit of talk about Rondo replacing Sandhawk in the esports scene. Personally, I don't know, I don't think I have a problem with it. I would say that, I personally would have rather had it be something like where they took out Erangel, at least just for like an event or two, just because it's been by far the most played map, not just in the esports scene, but just in the PUBG Mobile scene in general. We've seen everything there is to see on Erangel, it seems like. But Sandhawk I've always really loved how it's just been immediately thrown into the action. It's just rumble in the jungle, man. I'm gonna miss it. But Rondo to have that in the pro esports scene could be huge. That could change the nature of PUBG Mobile esports just with the interactive map, the being able to actually change the landscape itself. Also, I think in terms of overall changes it's going to bring to the esports scene, probably longer events. Just two Sandhawk matches totaled can be like a total of like 50 minutes, even down to like 45 minutes. But 2 Rondo matches, that could be adding, 20 to 30 minutes onto a broadcast time. So I think that's going to be one of the bigger changes that you'll see. But as far as Titan series is going today, I believe we are working with Sandhawk and keeping things a little bit more traditional. Man, Trunks finding himself some pretty decent loot here. I mean, granted, M16 SKS is not the ideal loadout, but to find that that 8X on a sniper this early on in stage 1, that could be huge for the team. I am a little curious about not seeing any of his teammates here on the map with him, so they've got to be a decent bit of space away, but you know, that could be one of the follies of coming fresh off of a chicken dinner the match before, is letting that confidence and momentum build, but got to keep it in check and not let it kind of border into cockiness. And while 7th Universe certainly made a big impact in that round 1 chicken dinner finish, I don't know that it warrants spreading out from your team, you know, like you're ready to handle your 1v4s. But we'll see if it... Oh, I take it back. I take it back. I take it back. This is, again, what I was saying at the flight path. Objects may appear closer or further away than they actually are. Well, it's really only deep of 7th Universe that's a ways away from the team. A 3-1 split is a much more understandable approach here, with Deep being able to provide some scouting info to his teammates before they begin their migration south into this next zone. Alright. Well, looking at the kill feed, I see, or the top left of the screen, I see 63 players up. So at best, we've had 1 elim on the board. At worst, a team may have entered as a 3-piece, but yeah, so far, this is much more in line with a early event Miramar, like an early stage event Miramar match. Definitely a much more reserved start to add on to what is already kind of par for the course for Miramar, that slower first half of the match. But I'm going to say, you know, if teams like the Wolves, you know, who entered the day here, I guess entered round 2 with only 25 points total, aren't able to acquire some of these elims early on, it's going to be a slow, gradual climb back. And I know that we all know the Wolves are not the slow, gradual climb type. They are the make moves happen fast, put up big numbers by any means possible, and just take on situations where other teams wouldn't. Aggressively pushing forward, kind of for better or for worse, and then just when you think you have them pegged, that's when they'll switch the strategy up on you and keep you on your toes. But yeah, if Wolves aren't able to start putting up some numbers today, it could be one of those last half event pushes. And I'm not even going to rule them out of it. You know, a 25-point gain would kind of put them right in the running of being up towards the top bracket here. And we have seen 25-point games from the Wolves on countless occasions. Well, Team Seal, we got Magic here, drawing himself ever closer to the winners of round 1, 7th Universe, at maybe just a 2-piece of 7th Universe. We got Faker and Trunks just ahead of us, looking like they're preparing their migration into this next zone. All the while, Rich Esports having at it in the distance. Looks like they acquired a knock on DBZ. But they're taking this altercation on as a team. With Lawson made it in retaliation, it's going to put a real pressure factor on Kaiser and Hasib. Well, Lawson is bound in the lobby right then and there. Kaiser and Hasib in a what looks to be a 2v2 altercation, but if this could be one of those situations, and I think it is one of those situations where, pun intended, they start seeing red, that tunnel vision kind of locking in on one another a little bit too much here and finding themselves a bit vulnerable to either Entity or Dark Esports. Entity looking like they're gonna just rotate northbound, probably not recognizing any easy anyone he can get those bullets onto, he's sending them outwards. All the while, Noobs Esports facing off with the big bad lion of INCO, and it looks like Rival 6 getting some knocks on them as well, maybe even some elim steals. Blaze swimming in a pool of trouble here with CBK just in front of him. All the while, Claus perched on the high ground, providing that overwatch and scouting relay info down to his teammates Blaze and XP3. Blaze probably not going to be presenting any slivers here unless it's an almost guaranteed knock. Now, even if it is, it's going to be a risky situation. Meaning I don't think that he'll be able to acquire that thirst without a lucky utility throw, without it pushing up. And with Claus just being knocked there, that's their sniper overwatch. That's definitely a big hurdle here. And so there's not going to be any chance of Blaze pushing in on that thirst. And understandably so. Good thing Dauntless has going for XP3 and Claus is as soon as Claus was knocked, he was basically out of the line of fire. Once he was knocked, he was sent down to the prone zone and basically out of any eyesight because of that hill crest. So a pretty casual revive for them. CBK still holding position with Blaze kind of gatekeeping here. All the while SON pulling a flank rotation into this next zone and taking some heavy fire from what looks to be the Eagles. Now finding themselves driving parallel into this next zone alongside Dark Esports. We see AP here in a tough position. He does not have anyone in the passenger seat, no one to really provide that passenger seat cover fire. Yeah, he can switch over to the passenger side, but it's not going to be quite enough. Mr. Flash preparing a nade here. Luckily, Psycho making the DBS sing. However, Flash is down just like that. SON might be down to their final hope here. Yeah, I think SON's down to just Casey. All the while, Psycho trying to hold off Dark Esports with a little bit of molly fire. Goat keeping the pressure on. But boom goes the dynamite, and Martha Stewart herself could not have cooked that nade better. Goat living up to the name here, adding more knocks onto the board here, but he knows straight out of Nepal KC is off in the distance. And look, we talked about seeing red, that tunnel vision factor, and it looks like that's exactly what happened here as X-Force got an easy line of sight on Dark. And look, is Valak gonna do it? Okay. Talk about a fun little position to hold there, that little elongated pipe. Bloody of DP keeping the pressure here on Rich East with a nade. It looks like Dauntless and DK still squaring off all the while. Yeah. Oh, Bloody does get the knock on Rich again, or potentially the thirst. All the while, Blaze now able to get a utility knock on Daisy. This is going to be interesting because last time he only had one knock, but with two members of CBK knocked, if this is not going to be a push-up from the remaining members of Dauntless, then what would be the point of taking this altercation on? We hear it, Claus driving inbound, but in my opinion, probably a little too late to really capitalize on it. Luckily, Poker staying dead still here. Is that nade going to connect? Nah, not quite. Claus taking a hefty load of fire here, and the zone is inbound, and it looks like, oh, this is going to be a battle for high ground. You can already tell. Claus pulling a slight rotation just out of the reach of that frag grenade. Poker keeping the pressure on with some warning shots for SMG. Vitaly of INCO working on X-Force in the distance, but Claus still up and about. It's just him and Blaze here, swimming in a full four-piece of CBK, and this is It's a situation where CBK outnumbers, outmans, and outguns Dauntless here, but probably does not realize it. Alright, we got Nox here. I believe Nox messaged me on Instagram this morning. He's gonna give me some screen time. I didn't reply. But here you have it, sir. Nox holding position with that M4, peaked and ready for what he believes to be an inevitable push from Dauntless. But look at that Daisy, an absolute game-changing nade there. This should probably warrant CBK pushing in on what remains of Dauntless, but there is an off-angle holder Dauntless has way off in the distance, and yes, he is aiming inbound at CBK. I can see it on the map. There it is. Yeah, so this explains CBK's reservations a lot more. Dauntless has a 1-1 split here. Yeah, it looks like XP was able to get that off angle, and that definitely explains the reservation a little bit more from CBK on pushing onto this. But Dauntless able to slowly chip away at CBK, and now Claus is down, and XP3, that high ground off angle, is probably going to be his saving grace, as now he has the option to just dip out and stop engaging with this fight. He's outnumbered, outmanned, outgunned. The odds of him pulling off a 1v3 successfully versus staying alive into the placement point bracket, I mean, I'd say the placement point bracket's probably the more realistic approach. X-Force and INCO still continuing this grudge match with one another here. We've got Valak aimed outward, 6x M4 in hand, trying to catch a line of sight. 24K. Looks like that knock on McGrellin is going to be all for naught here if X-Force does not push on it. And I think at this point, enough time has passed where it's already probably too late to be a successful push before the revive. Yep. The line is back up and about. And he's ticked, aiming outwards at, I believe that's Rival 6. 3x M4 in hand. No shots put out just yet. Onder trying to hold that hill crest and as long as he can here. All the while, his teammate Flicks with a beautiful knock via the mini. Unfortunately, with that knock having a little bit of compound cover and being just out of the line of sight from that window way, I don't see him being able to secure any thirsts there. Flick's making a tough call here. He says, I might not be able to get the shots on the enemy, but I can certainly damage that vehicle and make his next rotation a real pain. And here we see Rival 6's Dar pushing upwards towards INCO. Vitali looks like his teammate was able to secure the knock on Vitali, and that is going to be a finish for him, very likely. Going to put INCO down to a 3-piece here. And so far, even with it being down to 36 players, we still have 15 teams remaining on the board. So only one team has been fully eliminated thus far. And as I say it, Caster cursing the Wolves back to the lobby, I believe. Yeah, X-Force getting some extra elims on the board here. We are down to 14 teams at the moment I said it. All the while, MEZEXIS getting some unwanted attention by Kubi of the Golden Eagles, and it does look to be a likely thirst as well. Okay. Yep. Wow, 24K. continuing the onslaught on Kubi of the Eagles, and then reorienting his attention towards Dizzy, knock after knock, but taking a little bit of unwanted third-party fire. I think it was from deep of 7 from NOOBS, I suppose. The seals are being hunted here, and Zelaman, or pardon me, yeah, Zaman, definitely in need of a revive from here, and this is going to exemplify that beneficial positioning here inside that pipeway. It's basically blocking all lines of fire except from 2 that no one has. Flick's probably the closest to having that vantage point, but as you can see, it's not quite enough to get the line of sight. Yeah, we talked about it a few minutes ago. A battle for high ground, because look at this next zone. Very, very small amounts of yes, it is going to keep a lot of the high ground in this next zone. So I think currently, you know, the position that is probably going to be the one people are seeking out. And if I was a solo at that point, I probably wouldn't want the prime positioning. Well, 3 lions remain here. Magrellan, Bruno, and 7. Vitali eliminated just moments ago, who was responsible for half of the team's elims, but we said it last match, I'll say it again. A 3-piece of INCO, even a 2-piece of INCO, a very formidable threat in an in-game finish. Well, Magrellan sent right back down to the prone zone alongside Bruno, and just like that, the Lions' share is stolen, no longer the Kings, and sent back to the lobby. INCO eliminated in 12th place. That's a tough pill to swallow. We got the final hope for Straight Out in Nepal. Mr. Casey himself literally just dead still, not moving a muscle, not trying to get a single bit of unwanted attention, because he is swimming in a pool of dark esports oppositions here, and one wrong move could be the end for SON for round 2. Well, Star, you know, yep, I had to have this dad joke pun ready. The stars have fallen. And now, Winter securing his first elim and the team's first elim. This is a tough position for NOOBS esports to be in, down to a solo. And, you know, granted, we're reaching the concluding, we've got about a minute left of stage 6, but we still have 18 players up, spread across 8 people. But that does mean that these teams have met the bracket here for placement points at the very least. XP3 trying a risky revive and almost securing it. Poker putting the shots outward in the last split second, but XP3 retaliating with perfect precision and aim and doing more damage to the opposition than he took in retaliation. Now getting a little bit caster cursed by me, and Nox just finishing the job right then and there. That's going to be Nox's second elimination and the team's 4th. Now, CBK going to carry on as a 3-piece. Not a bad position to be in. A 3-piece, 4 elims on the board, and down to 7 teams remaining. The next minute and a half to 2 minutes are going to be so critical to the playing field, meaning there's going to be a lot of easy opportunities to get elim steals or secure knocks or thirsts, and very often teams are going to have to exert a lot of self-control and discipline, because over the next minute and a half, the numbers are just going to plummet. And every team you stay alive longer than at this point is extra placement points on the board. And if you're, you know, surviving, let's say 4th place to 3rd place, getting like an extra 2 points right there on the board, that's 2 elims worth for just sitting still. So having to weigh your options and kind of dial back here, like 24K, there is not a lot of scenarios that I don't see him having a line of sight on Nox. And he's going to go for it. 24K securing the thirst. And the good thing that he has is this positioning, just complete 360 degrees of Overwatch and being so high up that he's really only in a direct, vulnerable line of sight from Rival 6 and maybe potentially CBK, but definitely Rival 6. And Valak just holding position while Anders of Rival 6, I mean, this is a questionable push forward to the crate here. I mean, I don't know what your resources were, but it's a risky push any way you look at it, especially with X-Force knowing Rival 6 is inbound. Getting a line on Dark King, and Anders sneaks his way up and secures it. This is interesting, especially considering how vulnerable Anders would have been to Team Seal or maybe even members of Dark Esports there, and not a single bullet fired his way. But Prince does focus in on Dark. It looks like it's going to be a thirst to follow. All the while, Anders retaliating onto X-Force with a knock and a quick thirst to follow onto Robs. Anders, the last hope for Rival 6 here. But give him credit where credit is due. 8 elims on the board. And at the very worst, 5th place in placement points. This is going to be a healthy point gain here for Rival 6. And every team that they can stay alive longer than now, just easy points in Anders' pocket. We see CBK preparing some utilities here. Looks like they're going to try to get a nade on the high ground holder of 24K, and he is taken down successfully. Pretty impressive nade by CBK, because I'm assuming that they were going off of just sound and audio cues alone there. But in general, maybe 24K didn't have that much wiggle room up there. Regardless, it leaves everything in the hands of Valak. Valak telling his teammate, hey, slide on down here. And CBK still committed to trying to secure this finish with utilities, for better or for worse. But 24K is thirsted via the nade. Valak taken down to half health and finding himself in a 1v2 scenario. And boy, the nades are raining down on him. Hellfire crashing left and right. That last one, oof, Valak pushed forward, I think might have been the only thing that separated him from being a burning candle there. All for naught, though, as Poker utilizing that high ground and that second line of sight. Great effort on X-Force's end, but CBK coming out victorious in that altercation. Well, we got the GOAT. Let's see if he's a mountain goat here, because he is trying to get a difficult, steep climb here and a nade knock if possible. We see Team Seal trying to secure this revive, and it looks like it's done so successfully. So Seal going to carry on with their 3-person team here. And as you see there, Zaman, by far their heaviest hitter for round 2, responsible for 5 of the team's 8 elims. That is a pretty big backpack player there, especially considering he was almost eliminated a crucial revive on the board. And GOAT eliminated by none other than the play zone. Well, Zaman, who we were just speaking of, trying for a utility knock on Daisy, not hitting the mark and just sending him outwards, but Daisy utilizing that high ground, and M4 on Dezalaman. It's a quick finish, and boom, just like that, CBK with a well-deserved chicken dinner. Well done. And let's give credit where credit is due. Adding 9 elims on the 10 placement points. That is a 19-point gain for round 2 alone. A huge leap forward if you're CBK. And hey, Seals, 9 elims. Ain't nothing wrong with silver if you got 9 elims to add on to the board. And Dark Esports, just to put it into context, how crucial some of those late game elims can be, you know, in context where Dark Esports is doing a much slower, more reserved approach, still meeting that in-game, but only 3 elims, probably not going to be enough to hang with the big boys there. At only 8-point gain for them, finding themselves about 11 points shy of CBK's performance. And actually topped by Rival 6 and X-Force's performance as well, just due to elims alone. But, you know, regardless, that's one Miramar down, done, and dusted. We got Erangel out of the way, so you guys already know what time it is. Maybe for one of the last times. Who knows? Who knows what the future structure is going to be, but for now, we are going to be returning for a little rumble in the jungle shortly. I am curious to see if we're going to be getting the overall rankings provided here, or if it's just going to be when we come back. I'm betting it's probably going to be at comeback here. So, tell you what, we'll take a slight brief intermission here and be back at you guys in just a few short minutes with round 3 of 4 of the PUBG Mobile Titan Series Premier Qualifiers. Ah, there it is. Just thank you. Make me look silly. We got... Oh my goodness. Ladies and gentlemen, sorry about that. I'm not really sure how I'm hitting the foot pedal, but we're going to go ahead and turn that screen off. No more mic muting. You have my word. You guys know I'm the strong, silent type anyway, so I've been too quiet and mysterious for far too long, and I think now I have some things to say. So, guys, if you're just now kicking it in, welcome back to round 3 of 4 of the PUBG Mobile Titan Premier Qualifiers, Day 2. Might be one of the last times we get a rumble in the jungle as the esports scene is shifting from Sandhawk to Rondo. But while we have the jungle here, let's just appreciate it, because it is a special kind of gameplay. To take a Sandhawk dub, you got to be ready for immediate altercations. Basically, the moment your feet touch the ground, you could be thrown right into the thick of it. And it's also a smaller map just in general, and it's more congested, meaning that you can have enemies all around you without having a single clue, because there's so much cover to take. There's going to be a lot of stuff I'm going to miss about Sandhawk in the esports scene for sure. But you know who might not feel the same is Noobs Esports, definitely having a tough go of it to start, and finding themselves already 2 members down as Winter and Gino have been eliminated, and Mizzou and Papi Triste here not faring much more beneficially here. Mizzou is down just like that, and Papi Triste, who looks like he cut his losses a while back and turned Tucktail to head to this new zone. He's going to be down to a solo for the remainder of the entire match. Now, Rich Esports, before I realized my mic was muted there, I was talking about Rich in this altercation with MEZEXIS, because Rich is a team that entered the day in last place, that entered this match in last place, really has not been able to find their footing or any momentum, so to speak. So at this point, it's down to basically 10.5 games remain to make up that slack in the rope. If you're Rich Esports, you know, facing less than, I don't know, like probably less than 10 or 15 points on the board for them total, it's going to be a huge hurdle to climb over 10 games. And every game that they wait to sort of shift that strategy up into a more aggressive approach is going to make it that much more and more difficult to come back from this handicap. This is going to be an interesting zone to see here also, because I really do like these zones where the pine and riverway essentially divides the zone and the lobby into sections here. It could mean some early game implications in certain sections. It also could mean bits of waiting and downtime like we see in Painan very frequently. But Valak focused on by the INCOs and immediately rocked off his horse, but that is going to bring X-Force down to a 3-piece of fate. 24K and Robs trying to be the Lone Ranger here, even though he's got 2 teammates nearby. Goodness, that horse is taking some risky jumps. Looks like a little bit of unintentional third-party assistance, a saving grace for X-Force, as INCO has to turn their attention towards Dark Esports. Dark Esports securing a knock on Bruno, INCO retaliating with a knock on Dark, but really giving X-Force the brief few moments that they need to kind of recollect themselves and, I guess, either rotate away or find a more proper position, a more advantageous position to occupy. It's certainly not looking like it's going to amount to the push, and that's fairly understandable this early on. Hey, thank you, Clint. Y'all know me. I'm a man of few words. A strong, silent type, and you know, sometimes I feel that less is more. I'm just the strong, mysterious type, guys. You know me. Sorry about those mic issues. We are going to disconnect the stream pedal. There will be no more Red Eyes accidentally hitting that button. All right. Well, CBK, you know, really strong performance in the previous match. Will it be enough to sort of make up for the slack in the overall placement? If I'm not mistaken, CBK... Okay, actually, CBK entered the day at around 7th, and I would probably see their performance thus far as riding right around that same area between the first two matches, balanced out. I'd say it's probably going to be riding right around the same area, meaning that they haven't really undone any of the major progress they've made, haven't really made leaps and bounds forward altogether with both previous matches in account. But CBK still kind of riding that realm where they could, one bad match, maybe two bad matches could take them right out of that top 10 placement. And so, you know, one really good match probably not going to move them too high up the ranks, maybe from, you know, 7th up to 5th or something, but certainly one bad match or even being eliminated early on could be all it takes to get them out of that running to advance onto the Premier Finals. And even though we still have a couple days ahead of us, it's understandable that they don't want to throw all the advantage out this early on. Well, lost in of Rich Esports, one of the three boys just holding down the fort here, and they can hold it down and wait all they want, but CBK is not fooled for a second. Poker preparing a utility. He smokes in front of him just so Lostin has no idea when it's coming. Lostin taken down to about 30% of his overall health, able to med himself back up, begging the question here. Is CBK planning to push without a knock? I don't see that happening. Wow, we got a little love triangle forming here with X-Force, Entity, and INCO. All three teams just squabbling with one another here. I'm seeing knocks from one to the other. McGrellin, once again, knocked, but is able to get revived before any pushes inbound. Bruno D holding the overwatch and cover fire while the meds are being used. And it looks like X-Force gonna be biting their tongue. Got a line of sight on the star 6 here, but was that Thirst going to rob? It was. He was able to secure the knock and the finish before the Elim was stolen right before his eyes. So nicely done. I did not see that end up, I did not predict that he was going to be able to secure that Elim. That was a risky one to push for, but 7th Universe now focusing their attention onto the Golden Eagles. Now 7th U, fresh off of Erangel Chicken Dinner, high performance in this event thus far overall, really looking to just keep that snowball to the bottom. Let that rock continue to build up into a boulder here without making any radical adjustments quickly. No quick sudden changes in the strategy. That ain't broke, don't fix it. A lot of people saying Red is muted. Okay. So, let me just throw this out here, guys. You know, when I'm not muted, it's too much talking. When I am muted, you want me back. Listen, I want you all to think about this. You know, next time you're saying Red's mouth is bigger than his head, I want you all to remember you asked for this. We got the Wolves Doran continuing to add a little bit of distance pressure here on to Team Seal. I don't see that being very beneficial or advantageous without having one of those off-angle holders having a for sure thirst ability. I don't think that's going to happen with that much distance there. So the Wolves, you know, a surprisingly low standing overall on the placement board, finding themselves, I believe, in the second half of the bracket here. So below 10th place or right around that. It's not looking good here. So the Wolves Definitely a team very capable of putting up insane numbers very quickly. So I'm not ready to even rule them as a doubt yet, but it is a bit concerning to see them this low on the placement board and, you know, begging the question, when are we going to see the aggressive Wolves that we've come to know and love? Well, we see Juancho with a knock on Jat in the feed. That would, if secured, be the Wolves' second elimination of the match so far. And I think what we might be due for here is the Wolves kind of trying to exert a little bit of discipline and get these easy knocks and thirsts when the opportunity is presented. I think we just saw Coops in the feed here with another knock, and I believe it was stolen. Prince sees Daisy off in the distance. Daisy at half health, but not taking any bullet fire, and Prince giving his position up like a honing beam in the sky. And boy, oh boy, does it spell trouble for him as CBK retaliates onto him, leaving Team Seal down to Magic. All right, in the distance, Blaze of Dauntless going after one of the Wolves, but you strike one Wolf down, you just tick off another member of the pack, and retaliation is served on a dish quickly on him. Blaze down like a bad habit. Now CBK here, just pulling off some risky Look at Daisy from the passenger seat of the vehicle, securing the thirst onto Rob, putting X-Force down to 24k and a very ticked off 24k at that. All the while, the Wolves are sent back to the lobby at the hands of Dauntless. Looks like Dauntless at this point just a three-piece. Still able to knock the Wolves down off their rocker and back to lobby. And it is another tough finish for Wolves Esports, you know, who a team I keep commending their ability to put up massive numbers in quick, you know, performances. Meaning I've seen 25 point gains in one match alone from the Wolves more times than I can count. But at the end of the day, where they're currently standing, we have not seen that from them thus far. And it does not look like that was the Wolves that was presented on day one either. So that means they've got 10 matches left to cover up that slack in the rope and remind the lobby just why their name is so feared. Talking about names that are feared, we got INCO securing yet another knock on the board here, on who I did not see, but catching focus here on DBZ. Still a full four-person team, but zero elims to speak of. And we spoke about this last match. You know, in context, these low elim point gains, even if it's second place finish, you know, a third place finish, with only 3 elims on the board, it's not getting a lot of point gain, especially in context to you know, some of these heavy elim matches, like what we're seeing in round 3. You know, we saw some 15, 16, 17 point gains for certain teams. So yeah, it's good to get those placement points, get yourself in that secure zone, play to your strengths, and get those points. But if you're not comfortable putting yourself in the altercations and stepping into some of those CQC situations, is probably not going to be enough point gain per match to keep up with the top performing teams here. So DBZ, I say that with DBZ in mind. They got 1 elim on the board, but I would like to see a bit more aggression moving forward. And speaking of aggression, no team could be expected to be more aggressive than a lion in the jungle. Lions are kings of the jungle, and INCO, kings of Sandhawk here, and proving just why. And as I say it, being caster cursed as Bruno is downed like a bad, ironic habit. Crazy of DBZ holding position. You believe you heard the rotation from Small Man, or XP3 there. Not sure what the game plan is here from Dauntless. Looks like it's a bit of a spread. and essentially Small Man's dealing with DBZ, Dauntless Claws on INCO. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of coordination between the teammates on who to focus on, but we got Small Man here with the high ground Overwatch, probably trying to relay some of that scouting info. So I'm not really sure what is up with that spread and that approach there. INCO ripping them apart one by one. And Klaus, you know, responsible for 80% of the team's elims. 4 of the team's elims go to Klaus alone so far. But if he's not able to get revived, it would be a huge hit, and he's down and out, bringing Dauntless down to a 2-piece of Small Man and XP3. And frankly, the spread between these two basically means that any knocks that happen are going to be permanent. You know, they're solidified. Not really a chance for Small Man to make his way over to XP3 in this new zone. Not with INCO and DBZ blocking his way. So, for better or for worse, this could be Dauntless's saving grace or their undoing. Meaning, it's a lot easier to pick off solo players there. Also, flip the script, you know, Dauntless, enough space between them where they could have 2 opposing lines of sight on an enemy. And here we see it, XP3, for better or for worse, pushing inbound onto DBZ Esports, and he's very well aware that the enemy is there. And Small Man still holding positioning up here. I don't see XP3 planning to push it. And look at this, Bruno of INCO preparing a utility, trying to get a knock on one of these DBZ members. Looks like it's either aimed at Pressure or Crazy. And look here, XP3. The Dauntless enemy on the roof. Well, Small Man going to illuminate my point for me there, that the spread out formation could be Dauntless's saving grace, and I think it was in that scenario just a little bit of both. XP3 no shot of being able to assist his fallen teammate, but at the same time XP3 is still up and about, getting another shot at getting his team 1 slot higher in place. But definitely putting a lot of attention onto himself for being a solo, and ultimately eliminated in 3rd place overall. So it is a 2v4 DBZ up against INCO, and now a 1v4. Pressure feeling the karma of his name right now as the Lions come storming, just outnumbered, outmanned, outgunned, and, you know, frankly, just the kind of performance that you would expect from a team as dominant as INCO Esports. Hey, give them credit where credit is due. I mean, the performance essentially unmatched by any other team in the lobby this Sandhawk. There is one other team that broke the bracket of double digits, but INCO literally took that and doubled their points. So Dauntless may have had 11 points, INCO doubled that. 12 elims and a chicken dinner on the tip of their tongue 1st place finish. That is a healthy 22-point gain for INCO in round 3 alone. DBZ, the Dragon is coming back here. But again, remember what I was saying with DBZ in mind just a few moments ago. We saw this from them, I believe, last match as well, where they did secure very good placement, but the elims were just a little bit lackluster. Now look at the point total, 7 total points in comparison to Dauntless, who came a whole slot lower and significantly more points on the board. It's just going to show that yes, placement is important, but it's not going to be enough to be the king of the hill here. It might be a healthy point gain. 7 points ain't nothing to wag your finger at, but it's not going to be enough to take INCO, to take the crown from him, so to speak. Straight out of Nepal in 4th place has a bit of the same story, but at least a little bit more in terms of elims, just lower placement. 8-point gain for them. 7th Universe overall held second before this match, so not a very strong performance from them, but not going to be something that serves as a detriment to them very much either way. CBK, a little bit of the same. But, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be back at you with the 4th and final round in just a brief few short minutes. Stick around. We'll be back with the last match of the day of the Titan Series Premier Qualifiers Day 2. Be back soon. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. We are back with our fourth and final round of the day of the PUBG Mobile Titan Series Premier Qualifiers Season 8, Day 2. And we're circling back to where it all began, the very first map ever introduced to the game. Of course, Erangel. Now, this is the only map that these participants have a second shot at today. So, they're going to have to make the most of it, correct the errors from round 1, and let's see what we're working with. Now, looks like this zone that we're starting off with is about as ideal as the participants could hope for. About as centralized as it could be. A lot of compounds and cities to choose from here in this early game. But look at how many teams have decided to make the Millie Island their home. We've got 7th Universe, Dark Esports, Rival 6, all choosing to occupy the southern island. It does look like it's going to spread out a bit more. 7th Universe going to have the Novo region all to themselves. And basically, that whole half of the island, the whole right half of the island belongs to them. The real altercation there would be from Rival 6's Anders with Dark Esports. Looks like Pachinki goes to CBK alone. You know, if you got the guts to drop there, sometimes that little reverse psychology. You know, it seems like such a risky decision, but if no one else is willing to risk it, then the city of Pachinki is all yours. Okay, well, getting eyes on INCO. Landing on down into round 4 fresh off a chicken dinner dub from Sandhawk. And it looks like these boys are going to try to get a little rotation into this next positioning. I believe that was Rival 6 Anders in the Elam feed getting knocked. I'm not sure if I saw that correctly or not, but that would be a tough loss. Yes, it is. It at the hands of Dark Esports, no less. And we were talking about Dark Esports entering the day kind of at the bottom of the bracket board here. So certainly a step in the right direction to go out seeking altercations a little bit earlier on. Now, the only issue is that they do still have more members of Rival 6 to deal with, and with Flix having that high ground scouting position here, potentially an off angle, he can relay a lot of info to Freepoint and Dar. This could be a 2-1 split that Dark Esports might not be ready for here. Even though I would say Dark Esports positioning was a little bit more advantageous here, I still think the hesitation that we've seen from them, it makes me a bit nervous for him here. Because Rival 6 is not hesitant, but as I say it, the nade smacking him in the face at the hands of Dark King, and now Flix retaliating with a knock onto Noob of Dark Esports, who was trying to come provide some assistance to his teammates, and now the odds have evened once again. However, Dar finding himself a little bit closer to the confrontation than Flix. And we said it last match, we said it in Miramar, a shotgun sounds the same in every language. And now Flix, this has got to be a very questionable push here. Any way you look at it, the odds of him securing a 1v3 here before Freepoint is eliminated are fairly slim. Boy, if this revive is successful, okay, he's not even going for the revive. I'm not really sure that I can find a way to spin a story where that push was the right decision. But regardless, Rival 6, sometimes your worst rival is yourself. And I think that one might have been a fairly avoidable situation. One where Rival 6 could have at least gotten some better placement and had a situation where it was damage reduction. But instead, finding themselves eliminated early on, it's going to be a little bit of slack in the rope to make up for moving forward. Okay, well, the Eagles, Kubi, a little bit spread out from his teammates here. I don't see any of them showing on the map here, so it's an interesting approach here to see a lot of these teams splitting up into this every man for themselves vehicle tactic here. It has some advantages, but I certainly feel like at this level of the comp scene, for it being so early in the game, I see it as probably a disadvantageous strategy here, just because you're not really able to provide much revive assistance if your teammates are knocked in that position. But it's easy for me to say with the observer's 2020 vision and no experience in the comp scene. So take everything with a grain of salt. Noob Esports, definitely a slower start than what I was kind of trying to hint towards them that they needed. When I spoke about teams like DBZ and Noobs Esports last match, it was to say, hey, you know, time is of the essence. I understand that there is a placement strategy, and getting, you know, yourself to the end game is a crucial part of that strategy. But if these teams aren't out here seeking elimination points to add on to that, I don't know if it'll be enough, even for that top 10 placement, so to speak. Maybe, but say you do scooch by and, you know, work yourself into the 10th place, 9th place bracket when these qualifiers conclude. Okay, so you move on to the Premier Finals, but if you think that placement strategy is gonna fare any kind of well in the Titan Series Premier Finals, you got another thing coming. Well, talk about teams that are actively out here seeking the action, and 7th Universe is doing so in full form. You know, a team that, at least for today, I haven't seen really make a whole lot of impulsive mistakes. Certainly finding themselves at strong performances each match, getting themselves to decent placement, getting themselves the elims to add on to it. We saw they entered the day at, I don't know, first or second place, I think. Second place. I think INCO was first entering the day. So really, it's been a strong, consistent performance from 7th U. And I think a strategy that teams like, let's say, DBZ and Noobs Esports might need to take a page out of that book. Well, X-Force, Rob's getting a elimination on the feed here as he hits him up with the 1-2, the Dukes, to knock that Eagle back down to the prone zone, and then back to the lobby he goes. Well, little bit of downtime, as to be expected, as to be the nature of Erangel. Once we saw those initial confrontations in that early stage 1, and there was definitely a bit of a spread after that. So now this this is what I like to see: the hovercraft strategy, first implemented by none other than X-Force here in PMSL, the 2 or 3 hovercraft strategy. One of the most insane strats I've ever seen in a PMSL lobby. But boy, oh boy, did X-Force make it an infamous strategy that day. And we've seen it implemented in almost every single NA Pro event since then. Not implemented successfully, attempted. Oh my gosh. And talk about not getting a break here. A lot of these teams were really hoping that next zone shift was going to be a lot more inland, but instead occupying about a third of it being water. It does leave an opportunity for certain teams like Dark Esports to just
basically not have to account for the water behind them as much. Sure, there could be a botation, but chances are you're not going to see that here. So realistically, I think that it's a lot less likely that they have to watch their backside if you're Dark Esports or a team that's facing the coast. Or the coast. Wow. You know, Wolves, I was going to say something about a little bit interesting to see. Still, the 0 elims on the board very early on, but it's Wolves Esports that we're talking about here. One of the most notoriously confrontational and aggressive teams in the NA Pro circuit. So to see them in this overall placement, to see them having these slow starts of the games, it just almost begs the question, when are we going to see the notorious Wolves that we know? When are we going to see the insane berserker pushes? When are we going to see the 2v4 pushes where Wolves are the ones outnumbered? Because we've seen it time and time again, and still, I say it each match, but I mean, any one of these matches could still be the one where they put up those 25 points, ridiculously insane performances, and work their way back up into the running. A lot of congestion forming for that coastal region that we were talking about, and we see X-Force here alongside Dark Esports, 7th Universe. This could be a little bit of trouble here for any of these teams that decide to take this fight on, especially with Wolves being their next closest threat, a team that's notorious for third-party elim steals. No time to waste as Dauntless thrown in the thick of it here with Team Seal. And look here, Blaze choosing of all the weapons to take on this CQC here, the Mini 14. Well, XP3 burning like a Roman candle and bringing Dauntless down to a 3-piece. Klaus trying to reunite and revive his fallen teammate here, which is going to put a lot of pressure on the remaining 2 members to provide that overwatch and cover fire. Realistically, it didn't amount to much because Team Seal is flanking. All right, yeah. Not sure what the strategy was there. If you're going to flank, you got to do it while the opposition is knocked there, rather than waiting for them to regain themselves. But Dauntless able to pick apart Team Seal left and right there, taking advantage over Seal's hesitation there. CBK, a 2-1 split, or a 2-1-1 split, pardon me. Their closest threat being to their west, I believe Team C... Yeah, CBK's closest threat to the west is Team Seal. Not really any immediate threat there, apparently. INCO, though, with 0 elims on the board, looking like they have just not found anyone, because they are clearly actively searching. Every man for himself vehicle approach. We were talking about it just a few minutes earlier. Couple advantages, couple disadvantages. Certainly not a strategy I would choose in a stage 1 zone, but moving towards, let's say, a stage 5, stage 6, a lot more sensible of a strategy in that case. Well, INCO closing in on proximity with CBK. All the while, X-Force facing off with none other than NOOBS Esports. And we talked about NOOBS having a lot of ground to cover here in this comeback. X-Force is letting their experience and synergy and just skill level shine here over a team like that. Picking them apart one by one, essentially, where it did not need to be a situation of NOOBS spreading out like that. Regardless, X-Force on to the next one, they say. And it looks like this could spell trouble here. If they focus a little too much in on that, it could spell trouble, as Dauntless is in a 2-1 split here around Team Seal. We got Prince, kind of the deli meat of that peanut butter and trouble sandwich. Yep, X-Force is going to close in here on NOOBS Esports. However, Winner still up. That zone just chipping away at the health, and I would imagine he's going to let the zone get the finish. It's 1 point for X-Force that won't be acquired, apparently. X-Force still, though, with 6 elims. It looks like they were able to secure a couple of those on Noobs Esports, working their way up to 6 elims and still a full 4-person team. Half those points go to Rob alone, but we say it time and time again, you cannot put enough emphasis on being a full 4-piece come a Stage 6, Stage 7 in-game zone, especially when compound cover is few and far between. Well, Spence, we see that Wolves not the only one implementing the hovercraft strat here. Spence just edging on his way closer and closer into what could be an altercation with a distracted CBK, a potential third-party opportunity. But it also, we are seeing here SON focusing in on CBK with ENCO not far off as well. Spence putting shots outwards towards Mood, dishing out a hefty amount of damage there, but not quite enough for the knock. Casey taking a load of bullet damage in retaliation as well, brought down to below half health. But look at Spence just running Mood over like a bowling pin. And this is exactly why the hovercraft was so successful in BMSL. It's exactly what Exit did in the final zone finish, just barreling into the opposition. It takes a lot of bullets to shut that hovercraft down, and very often that hovercraft is essentially just a bowling ball, and you can see it right now. SON getting spares. 7 of INCO now engaging once again with Dauntless. It's the fight they have to keep on returning to. It's going to become a grudge match between these two if they're not careful here. Vitaly off angle over, getting a line on XP3. Bullets outward with the 4X M4, putting out a hailstorm of bullets XP3's way, taking them down to about 25% health, but not enough to finish the job. And what is this going to be? Is this going to be an INCO push? I don't see much reason for it to be. And remember, 9 teams remaining. One more team gets eliminated, and then there is the bracket replacement. So, and I think as I said it, that 9th team was eliminated. So we are down to our top 8 teams here. And look at the zone shift. 7th U and X-Force duking it out for what could be the bottom half of the zone. All while, oh goodness, yeah, with Trunks down, it's going to leave it in the hands of Deep, 24K and Fate. All the while, Wolves and SON squaring off in the distance. Fate trying to prepare an escape route here and trying to cook up a preliminary nade here. It looks like some damage done to Deep there with that previous nade from 24K, but not enough to get him out of the equation. Not enough to bring him down to the prone zone. And so X-Force, as a 2-piece of Fate and 24K, having to hold position inside this building and await for this inevitable push coming inbound from 7th Universe. Now, this could be where 7th U, where inexperience might show itself in comparison to X-Force. This is going to be one of those situations where if 7th U pushes in, to push in one by one would be an almost certain undoing. Like one of those badly shot kung fu movies where they all push on the protagonist one by one and we just whip their butt one at a time. And there's no reason for 7 to push in one by one in this case either. So, good to see the singular push. Fate really holding off, staring off into space here in the wrong direction. But look here, 24K, S18, making it sing a song of death. And boy, a little bit of the chorus got sung back to him. And now Fate, the final hope here for X-Force, with an S12 of his own, up against Faker. A jump shot, not getting a single lick of damage in there, but then quickly getting a takedown on Deep. But Faker coming, or pardon, getting a takedown on Trunks, but then immediately taken out by Faker. Almost going over the odds here. Odds against him, but Faker does secure the finish and before any thirst were acquired. So 7th U gonna carry forward as a full 4-piece. All the while, the Wolves and INCO, the Lions and the Wolves, just swarming on each other, and it's a breath of fresh air to see Wolves aggressing on to the top placing team in this event. And Wancho, hovercraft in possession here, out there just running over the opposition. XP3 of Dauntless really putting a lot of attention onto himself here, and definitely keeping a lot of the Wolves' attention focused downhill towards them, for better or for worse. Not sure if I agree with it, but well, I'll say it right now. I disagree with it. Small man is a lot smaller when he's on his knees and down to the prone zone. And you know who doesn't waste time on a push? The Wolves. Doran getting another run over with that hovercraft, and then boom, Dauntless turning tail and trying to retreat, but you can't turn your back on a wolf. And Doran, a little bit of noise and commotion from that gunfire and driving around that hovercraft put a lot of attention out there on the player base, and Doran quickly picked apart the second he was visible to CBK. And just like that, we are down to our final 4 teams spread across 12 players. This could be a pretty evenly matched in-game. I have to check on these numbers here, but Wolves 3 members up once they get Doran back up and about, and no one is going to try to push on the Wolves here before that revive is implemented. Understandably so, given that they are out of the zone. Poker occupying this edge of the new zone, but, you know, realistically, not a lot of reason to present himself right now, especially if Baton just putting out a hailstorm of bullets uphill towards the 7th universe, and it's a quick knock on deep. And look at the Wolves just absolutely spreading out, going into the Wolves' final form, the one that we know and love, the one they practically put a branded wolf sticker on. Just all-out bloodbath berserker approach. Everyone spreading out, or if it's not a every man for himself spread out, it's a 2-2 or a 3-1 split on them, and then they just go berserker in these in-games. Some of the pushes we would like to criticize, but then they pull it off. You know, just as often as not, they pull it off. And when the point gain can be so significant that you're like, hey, if it's even going to work half the time, then it's worth it. Look at this. We were talking about those huge point gains. Doran, yet another victim to the hovercraft at the hands of Doran. And just like that, Wolves, 11 elims on the board. 3 members still up, looking in strong position here. This could be the point game that we were talking about. That one match is all they needed to put out such a outlier performance point game to get themselves right on back up in that Premier Finals range. Look at this. Crazy has not had to move an inch in quite some time, but is finding himself succumbing to the temptation of a crate drop here. That airdrop, a little too hard to say no to that armor and that ghillie suit, but no one's looking at him. He's able to get back into position successfully. Ironically enough, in the one position where a ghillie suit is rendered useless. Alright, we're seeing what's going on here. It looks like Echo, the teammate here, dealing with members of the Wolves. It looks like he actually has some of their attention and pressure, trying to get any preliminary easy knocks without presenting himself on a platter to the opposition. No such luck. And this is once again a DBZ finish, much like we saw in match 3 and match 2. Securing very high placement, but doing so with very underwhelming eliminations. And we saw in the Sandhawk match just how lackluster of a point total it provided. I believe they were third place with 7 or 8 points total overall. So, seeing them in this in-game zone with only one elim on the board, it is concerning. There's definitely going to need to be a change of strategy, and time is of the essence. 8 matches remain to qualify onto these Premier League finals. And I honestly, more of the same is almost guaranteed not to do it. Meaning, even if they get top 3 placement finishes every single match for the next 2 days, if DBZ does not step up those elim points, I don't think that 7-8 point gain per match is going to be enough. We'll see, though. All right, well, for better or for worse, the DBZ boys have committed to the strategy, at least for the day. This is one of those situations when you're down to your final 3 teams, every moment matters, meaning especially with CBK Poker being off in the distance, all DBZ needs to do is let the Wolves focus in on Poker, or hope that they focus in on Poker without really distracting them too much, and get those extra placement boosts right there and then. Poker of CBK down, done, and dusted. And just like that, DBZ Esports thriving on elim points here, or pardon me, thriving on placement points here as their primary source of point gain the entire day. Again, only 1 elim, second place so far. At the very worst, we could be seeing a 8 or 9 point gain for them. But when you see what it's going to be like next to a Wolves finish, I mean, what is certainly to be a 23, 24 point gain for the Wolves if they get this chicken dinner. I mean, in comparison, the performance from DBZ is not going to be able to even hold a candle to it. And I'm concerned that it might not be enough to hold in the top 10 of 16 by the end of day 4. Well, give credit where credit is due. DBZ does still have all 4 members up. But these 3 big bad Wolves are responsible for 11 of the team's 12 eliminations. And I said this in the Control Invitational last week, but the Wolves are such a solid and synergized team that their heaviest hitter, Coops, who is by far, the name that rings, for miles in the NA comp scene, he's just one guy. Everybody on this team is an absolute heavy hitter. And sometimes, they'll set it up for Coops to really shine. But for Coops to shine, you need 3 phenomenal support players. And look at this. When Coops is eliminated early on, these quote-unquote support players prove that they are not support players. They're all absolute berserk all-stars. Doran and Baton, 5 kills each. 10 kills between just those 2 players alone. So, DBZ might have numbers in their favor, but you can see the panic factor that the Wolves brand is putting on them. The intimidation factor, I should say. And here is something we have not seen from the Wolves prior to this match alone. The Wolves that we know and love. Oh my goodness. Well, we're starting to see why we have not seen it so far. Juancho picked apart. It's okay. All right. Case, you know what? I need a DJ Khaled thing on this stream deck because I would hit the button that says I played myself. I played myself here, Red Eyes. I absolutely did not see that unfolding the way it did with such a quick takedown on the Wolves' aggressive push forward. Now, we say this time and time again, the Wolves are known for this, and absolute berserk aggressive, high risk, high reward push. And honestly, yeah, there's plenty of times where it fails. But the thing is that it works out enough for the Wolves more often than it doesn't work out, to the point where it says, hey, if the odds are in our favor, meaning if it ain't broke and we get those extreme point gains from this when it works, let's just do it, you know? Don't question it. And that you'll see, this is one of those scenarios where it panned against them. And I'm sure, you know, we'll see time and time again scenarios where it works out. But here, case stands the same. The Wolves, even without that chicken dinner, still a 4-point lead over DBZ in match rankings alone. So good on you, DBZ. Getting those last couple elims certainly helping add on to it, but those 10 placement points, we know the DBZ strategy here. I still stand 100% behind my my prediction that will not be enough come days 3 and 4. So that strategy, yeah, it's not a bad day's performance in context for DBZ. I don't know if it's going to be enough moving forward. Y'all can assess that on your own. But Wolves, ain't nothing wrong with silver. CBK, solid performance. Here are the overall standings. What in the heck am I looking at? DBZ overall 62 points? Because this chicken dinner, this was their second chicken dinner, and what brought them up from their tie between them and 7th Universe. For some reason, I was under the impression that DBZ was a lot lower on the placement board than this. Certainly gonna change up a lot of my predictions. If they are this high up the point board here and hold 62 points, then honestly, their strategy could be enough. If their goal is top 10 and that's it, I see it being enough. So complete 180 from my previous prediction, but only because I predicted, or I assumed that DBZ was much further down. For some reason, I thought I saw them somewhere along like the 12th or 13th placement mark. So apologies to DBZ. Let's give them a lot more credit than what I was giving them in the last 5-10 minutes of that last match there, because they had a lot more of that under control than I gave them credit for. But ladies and gentlemen, that's a wrap for the day. I've been Red Eyes. Sorry about the mic issues early on, but it's been an honor and pleasure to cast for you. And until the next time, I hope you all have a great night, have fun, be safe, and be kind to one another. GG's.